The story kicks off the exact moment a system interface pops up out of thin air. The MC gets bombarded by alerts launching multiple systems all at once, until a warning points out his serious lack of stamina. Dragged into an energy vortex, he takes a dizzying tumble while an error alarm blares non-stop. Right then, memories of his past life flash before his eyes. A life that ended when he got taken out by a truck while reading a book. Soon after, flashes of an ancient dynasty pop up, revealing the new home for his spirit. Staring down a massive demonic wolf under the moonlight, he wonders how on earth he'll survive in a place crawling with wild beasts. Tumbling back into the digital abyss, he complains that this so-called golden opportunity is completely absurd and unbalanced. Stuck in limbo, he worries he'll go down in history as the first reincarnated guy to pass away from a system overload. Right after landing without a scratch, he lets out a huge sigh of relief for making it out of that turbulence safe and sound. But then, a massive gift bonks him on the head, leaving him salty that he almost lost his life just to get a compressed package. 4 glowing orbs pop out of the wrapping, making him realize he's got at least 4 systems at his fingertips. The screens lay out some totally nonsensical rules, like enduring failures, mastering emotions, and even opening a restaurant. Weirded out by the instructions, he questions the sanity of whoever designs such wacky quests. Remembering the humiliating poses the system demanded before, he groans that these rules are forcing him to toss his morals out the window. Suddenly, a dude wearing a headband storms in yelling, demanding that some Brother Lin change the storyline right this second. His shout echoes through the room, turning everyone's heads. Snapped out of his thoughts, the MC stares at the guy in front of him, looking a little dazed. Noticing his buddy's exhausted face, headband guy gets antsy and suggests finding a healer as soon as possible. Trying to keep his cool, Lin promises he's fine and just needs a quick breather. Deep down though, he's low, key panicking, realizing his survival depends on spinning tall tales for this noble kid. Getting his act together, he realizes that even though he unlocked his systems, he's got to actually use them in the real world. Sipping some tea, he starts plotting which emotion would be the easiest to manipulate in this setup. Hyped up, the young client claps his hands and demands the story start back up. Eaten up by suspense, the kid demands to know who the strongest master is, and what happened next in the plot. Spotting the perfect opening, Lin leans over the table and tells the young master to listen up. Tapping his finger on the wood to build hype, he narrates how the hero of the story refused to leave the temple. That night, while the MC was trying to catch some sleep, a weird noise came from outside. Cranking up the tension, he hints that the gorgeous lady had finally come to visit the hero's room. But then he drops the bomb when he opened the door. It was actually the bearded swordsman, totally crushing any chance of romance. Mind absolutely blown by the plot twist, the listener's jaw hits the floor. Enjoying his tea, the storyteller explains that the swordsman changed his mind because he thought leaving the kid behind was a total waste. In the client's mind, the ridiculous image of a hairy dude grabbing the kid starts taking shape. The tale goes on, describing the warrior tearing the kid's clothes and complimenting his soft skin. Making things way worse, Lin narrates that the swordsman decided to completely cross the line with the youth instead of leaving him for the spirits. The listener pictures the poor victim being pinned down by some massive, creepy arms. Keeping the vibe heavy, the MC describes the dramatic cries of misery echoing through the temple all night long. Shaking with anger, the young master grabs his friend's shoulder, pointing out that the swordsman was a total creep who didn't even shower. Fury takes over the kid, he grits his teeth, unable to stomach where the plot is heading. Throwing a total tantrum, he kicks the table away and demands an end to this circus. Hands shaking, he points a finger, trying to insult the narrator. Low-key checking his interface, Lin spots the system alert confirming he harvested Anger, and celebrates his strategy totally working. Mentally doing backflips, he decides this first quest is an absolute walk in the park. However, he snacks back to reality, trying to figure out how to chill out the furious client standing right there. Leaning on the busted table, the kid accuses Lin of cooking up that nasty story just to humiliate him. Demanding respect, he asks if the storyteller even grasps how much clout his family has in this town. Getting aggressive, he warns that if he hears one more piece of garbage, the MC won't walk out of there in one piece. Keeping his cool, Lin notices the kid's rage is all bark and no bite, so he pokes the bear, asking if he wants to hear the ending. Seeing a new quest pop up for negative vibes, he tells the kid to take a chill pill, and assures him he knows exactly who he's dealing with. With a sudden move, Lin slams his fist on the table and stands up, spooking the kid as he asks if he knows who's standing in front of him. Backing up terrified, the kid stammers, mumbling that he's just a regular storyteller. Riding the mystery wave, the MC claims that it's all just a cover-up. Without holding back, he shouts that he is the kid's actual biological father, making the noble youth lose his mind with rage and lunge at him. Dodging the attack like a pro, Lin makes up a lie that the family patriarch paid him off to force the kid to study. Laying on the drama, he explains that while stories are full of beautiful women, reality hits fools like a freight train. Pointing out the dangers of the real world, he declares that a rough, miserable future is all that waits for spoiled, clueless brats. Blinded by anger, the noble kid charges again, telling him to shut his trap and get lost. Blocking the hit with just one hand, Lin gets sarcastic, reminding him that the kid literally just wanted to lock him up in the mansion a minute ago. Playing dumb, he says he made a promise to the big boss and can't just bounce without getting his paycheck. Catching on to the hustle, the client crosses his arms and calls the fake master a greedy scammer. Without missing a beat, the rich kid pulls out a huge stack of cash and throws it in the air, promising to pay double whatever the old man offered. Snatching the cash with a sly look, he praises the kid's assertiveness and announces he's out of there. Slipping away, he warns the kid not to cross paths with him again, while the youth's angry screams fade into the background. Strolling down the street, he does a little happy dance over the effortless cash, realizing he's super close to the funds needed to open his restaurant. Walking around spacing out, he notices a massive crowd rushing in the same direction. Curious, he stops an old-timer and finds out everyone's rushing to see a creep who just got busted for harassing people. Confused by the sudden drama, he tries to wrap his head around what's going down. The old guy assumes the MC lives under a rock and starts venting about the insane amount of unhinged events plaguing the city. He rants about people appearing out of thin air and causing absolute chaos, like stealing chickens right in the middle of the street. Other crazy dudes are wasting their time catcalling women all over the neighborhood. Then there are the ones just eating themselves off rooftops on purpose, for zero logical reason. All this madness has the local cops completely wiped out from chasing weird thugs all day. As the old man wanders off to check out the new prisoner, Lin thinks about how bizarrely similar all these antics are. Getting suspicious, he figures out this mess isn't caused by the locals, but by people from his original world. He concludes that if he managed to load up several systems at once, it totally makes sense that other transmigrated folks ended up here too. Seeing the massive herd of people heading to the main square, he decides to go see it for himself to confirm his hunch. Arriving at the plaza, Lin spots a dude tied to a pole, while an angry old man demands he be taught a severe lesson for being a total creep to women. Even though he's getting rocks chucked at his head, the prisoner finds the whole thing hilariously funny, which drives the old man even crazier at the sheer disrespect. Not caring about the mob's fury at all, the culprit just yells at everyone to chill out and stop panicking. Watching the circus from a distance, the MC sneaks closer to figure out what's actually going on. Squinting his eyes, he spots something floating right above the tied-up guy's head. Green text displays a player name, leaving Lin totally shook by the floating gamer tag. With that in mind, he decides to carefully scan the area to see if he can spot any other weird stuff in the crowd. It doesn't take long for him to spot a girl in a bunny hoodie and a guy in a ninja mask geeking out over the unlimited technology. The masked dude keeps praising how hyper-realistic the NPCs look, trying to guess what kind of BFI algorithm can process all this. Right then, the MC realizes this entire reality operates on video game logic. But this lightbulb moment brings a wave of doubt, making him wonder if his entire existence was just a computer simulation all along. Digging through his memories, he thinks that if everything is just a game, his past life makes absolutely zero sense. Frozen in the middle of the street, he goes through a mini existential crisis, questioning who he even is in this crazy world. Just then, the masked guy calls the prisoner a moron, explaining he won't be able to log out from jail unless he deletes his character. The hoodie girl agrees the guy totally asked for it, but the masked dude guesses the prison might actually have hidden quests. Suddenly, the hoodie girl nudges her partner, nervously warning him about an NPC staring straight at them. Whispering, the guy says that's impossible, explaining they are talking through the system's private voice chat. Hearing every single word loud and clear, Lin is stunned to realize they just see him as a random background character. He figures out that the private chat feature doesn't work on him, since he can hear their trash talk perfectly. While the girl gets totally awkward about the staring, the MC internally celebrates his VIP perk of hearing other people's thoughts. Putting the puzzle together, he realizes he got dropped into a closed beta test server with 0 tutorials, which totally explains his stack of multiple systems. Spotting a golden opportunity, he decides to put a scheme in motion and walks confidently straight toward the duo. Stopping right in front of them, he clasps his hands and yells out, calling the masked guy, "Big bro." The random gesture leaves both players completely lost, totally unable to process what this so-called NPC is doing. Figuring it's way easier to just trick the users, Lin spins a lie about seeing a rare spiritual energy in them, the kind only legendary VPs have. Pointing at himself, the masked guy is totally clueless, while the girl panics and suggests they just ignore the scammer and walk away. Using the private channel, the guy tries to calm his partner down, worried they'll become internet memes if they fall for a basic scam. Listening to the secret chat in real time, the fake NPC finds it hilarious that he can hear them trash, talking him right to his face. Staying in character, he says he gets why they're suspicious of a random approach, but promises they are destined for massive greatness. Out of patience for the yapping, the hoodie girl crosses her arms and demands to know what his deal is. Doing a super extra bow, Lin asks to serve the young master loyally as his older brother, so they can get rich together. The masked user's ego inflates like a balloon from the kissing up, while his partner warns through the system that this has to be a quest trigger. In a flash, the player grabs the MC's hands and shakes them hard, accepting the team, up on the spot. The two start exchanging vows of loyalty right in the middle of the street, making the hoodie girl cringe out of her mind. Hiding behind a fake friendly smile, the MC thinks these outsiders are complete goofballs and super easy to play. A system screen pops up confirming the submission task is done, leaving the scammer amazed it worked without them even exchanging names. Right after, another alert tells him to boost his new boss's street cred, since the starting reward was pretty weak. Skimming the platform rules, he promises himself that making Mask Boy famous is going to be a piece of cake. Back to the acting, he hypes up his big bro, saying he's destined for the top and just needs the perfect stage to shine. Buying the lie hook, line, and sinker, the user excitedly asks if he's getting a quest, leaving his friend shook by the whole scene. With a confident nod, Lin confirms the hunch, making the masked guy practically beg for the quest details. Striking a majestic pose, the fake NPC drops a quote about how the heavens test a person's soul before handing them success. Inside, he's racking his brain to remember who actually said that quote, while the player notices the glitch and guesses the NPC isn't from Earth. Pointing at the sky, the scammer asks for a leap of faith, promising he'll do the impossible to hype up his new master. But immediately after, Lin points straight at the duo and starts screaming bloody murder for help, confusing the heck out of everyone. Yelling loud enough for the whole block to hear, he accuses the two of being partners in crime with the creep tied up in the plaza. The angry mob surges forward like a dark wave, blaming the newbies for plotting a prison break to bust out their buddy. Shaking like a leaf, the bunny girl tries to stammer out an excuse, swearing they didn't mean any harm. Not letting them get a word in edgewise, Lin flips his tone and gives them a harsh lecture for trying to make a run for it after getting caught red-handed. Riding the chaos he just stirred up, the MC spins around and starts sprinting away from the raging crowd. As he passes them, he quickly whispers that this stunt will make them famous, ordering the two to run for their lives right now. Sprinting down the street like a drama king, he yells for them to escape, crying fake tears like a totally devoted sidekick. Safe and sound in an empty alley, he takes a deep breath and applauds how ridiculously fast gamers run away from aggro. Checking the screen showing his negative emotion harvest, he feels super proud for speedrunning his system's progress. Meanwhile, miles away down the main road, the duo is running for their lives, eating dust to avoid getting jumped by the mob. Back at the square, the mess levels up when someone announces the city boss is dropping a massive bounty for whoever catches the accomplices. The tied-up guy freaks out seeing the blame shift, whining that he just wanted a quick jail roleplay experience. Strolling casually away from the drama, Lin can hear the masked guy screaming in the distance, swearing brutal revenge against the NPC. Wandering the quiet streets, he bums out over his other system stalling, but he's confident the outsiders will be useful again real soon. Bumping into someone he knows, he smoothly changes the subject, saying the fugitives vanished like a magic trick. Guessing the two logged out to avoid getting wiped, the MC figures their sudden vanishing act makes total sense. But a major red flag pops up in his head. He realizes he needs to figure out a way to block this logout feature if he wants to keep farming the Earthlings. Stopping in front of a real estate office, he decides it's prime time to focus on his failure and cooking systems. Walking in, an overly hyped realtor greets him, immediately asking what kind of crib he's looking to rent. Keeping a straight face, Lin cuts to the chase and says he's hunting for a solid commercial spot. Bursting with energy, he drops the idea of opening a restaurant, and the realtor accepts the challenge, promising to find the ultimate spot. Taken to the location, the MC's jaw drops at the sight of a colossal mansion, totally blown away that something so massive and isolated even exists. Puffing out his chest, the salesman brags that for the price they agreed on, only his agency could snag a property this huge. Hyped about the steal, Lin punches his palm, already picturing his restaurant becoming a smash hit. But taking a closer look at the building, he starts sweating bullets, realizing the place is actually way too big. Eyeing the overgrown weeds everywhere, he figures out this so-called commercial spot is just an abandoned, crumbling creepy mansion. Trying to save the sale, the smooth, talking realtor swears the price of 100 taels includes the gigantic lot around it too. Seeing the guy point out the massive land included, Lin just shrugs and accepts the terrible deal without a second thought. The agent is absolutely floored, asking if the buyer is 100% sure he wants to keep that pile of rubble. Already turning to leave, the MC simply tells the realtor to gather up some skilled workers to start the renovations. Standing in front of the collapsing ruins, Lin reminds himself his only goal is to meet the system's requirements, not run an actual business. While waiting for the crew, the MC starts brainstorming the aesthetic he wants for the place. Right then, a yell of absolute disbelief rings out across the yard. The foreman points angrily at a blueprint of the ugliest sign ever, asking if this is seriously what the client wants. Chilling on the grass, the young man doubles down, insisting the design must be copied perfectly. Thinking this is pure madness, the workers whisper that the boss must be off his rocker for buying a haunted lot. Soon after, though, the gossip gets cut off by an angry shout. Stomping on an old plank, the crew chief rejects the job, claiming that building something so hideous would completely ruin his street cred. Picking up on the workers' vibe, Lin gets a lightbulb moment. With the system siphoning the guy's anger, the MC pokes his ego, saying their skills just aren't up to par for the task. Pride totally bruised, the carpenters blow up, asking if the kid thinks he can just buy them off with cash. Casually holding up 2 fingers, he offers a 21% bump to their total pay. The furious worker threatens to swing at the client, but gets held back by his crewmate. But in the blink of an eye, the leader does a complete 180, praising the kid for recognizing true talent. When asked if he could handle the crazy request, the guy throws his hands up and takes the deal on the spot. Stoked to have the sign issue sorted, the scammer warns them he has some insanely weird requests for the dining area inside. Waving his hands excitedly, he details that the tables need to be totally asymmetrical, with every leg a different length, and the chairs gotta be crooked. Making it even worse, he asks for chip bowls and mismatched chopsticks made entirely out of solid iron. Summing up the madness, he dictates that the restaurant has to look absolutely repulsive, which makes the system shower him with rewards for soaking up failure energy. After laying down the law, he tells the crew to get to work and dashes across the yard, walking with a smirk. He thinks to himself that this is how you make a killer investment, sending a mental shout-out to the rich kid who funded it. Next, he starts wondering if his fake leader has logged back into the game yet. Miles away, a local covers his eyes as a blinding light flashes in the sky. 2 beams of golden light crash down from the clouds, landing right in the middle of Main Street. Seething with rage, the masked guy complains that after years of gaming, he got played by an NPC for the first time ever. Consumed by anger, the player spells it out loud and clear that he won't let this humiliation slide. The hoodie girl quickly catches on that her partner's main quest now is hunting down the scammer for payback. But before they can even make a move, the locals point at them furiously, recognizing the duo as the wanted fugitives. The mob rushes them, aiming to lock them up and cash in on the $50 reward dropped by the city boss. Seeing the stampede of angry townsfolk charging in, the masked guy acts on pure reflex and pulls a desperate move. The girl mimics his move instantly, and both of them vanish in a flash of light. The mob screeches to a halt, totally baffled about how the wanted criminals poofed out of existence again. In the real world, the gamer is losing his mind in front of his PC, throwing his gear in the air, because the quest difficulty is totally busted. Staring at the monitor, he admits the graphics are god tier, but complains that the lack of tutorials makes the game infuriating. Scrolling through forums, he sees other players raging about the exact same thing, and decides to file a ticket demanding the devs fix it. However, he pauses his rant when he spots an icon flashing in the corner of his screen. Clicking as fast as he can, he opens the game's official inbox. The message tells players they need to learn and adapt to the world's rules before they try to break them. Feeling totally disrespected by the sassy response, he bails on his forum post and decides to settle the score with brute force in-game. Checking the global chat and seeing the coast is clear, he finds the perfect window to log back in. Spawning back into the server, the masked guy gets a massive jump scare, seeing a wanted poster slapped on the wall. Staring at the busted sketch on the paper, the duo panics, realizing even their usernames got leaked to the whole server. In a dark cell, the plaza creep is crying curled up in the corner, taking the fall for the whole disaster. Gripping the iron bars, the player screams at the top of his lungs that he was framed and demands they arrest the real mastermind. Totally losing it, he threatens to delete his character if no GM shows up to fix this bug. Huddled up in the cell, the hoodie girl sighs, reminding him that nuking the account means their characters are gone for good. With no way to log out or break out in one piece, she asks her buddy what their next move is. Full of sass, she asks if his master plan is really just to cosplay as a beggar to dodge the cops and find his fake relative. Keeping his cool, the masked guy confirms that's exactly the plan, because he wants to see what kind of test this NPC cooked up. Time flies and nightfall blankets the creepy mansion on the edge of town in pitch black. Sprinting frantically for the exit, the workers bail on the site, while Lin tries to bribe them to stay. Super annoyed by the mass exodus, the MC demands to know how they can just dip without finishing the ugly decor he ordered. Pressing his hands together like he's praying, the foreman begs the boss not to make this hard, flat out refusing to work the night shift there. Lin tries to logic it out, assuming they're scared of some local gang shaking down the neighborhood for protection money. Sweating buckets and shivering with dread, one of the workers clears up that the property's issue has zero to do with gangsters. Eyes wide with pure terror, he finally drops the bomb that the giant house is completely infested with ghosts. The dude explains that 3 years ago, during an insane storm, a lightning bolt struck the house directly. Back then, the spot was a cotton mill, and the whole family living there lost their lives in the tragedy. After that, creepy noises started echoing from inside the property, terrifying the whole block. Out of options, they called in a Taoist priest who, unable to wipe out the spirits, used spells to lock them inside the mansion. Pointing at the creepy building, the foreman says the area slowly became a ghost town, which totally explains the dirt, cheap price tag. Relieved to be dodging the night shift, the guy sarcastically congratulates the kid on his bravery for buying the place. Waving from a distance, the crew books it down the dirt road, leaving the youngster all alone in the dark. Frozen in the middle of the lot, Lin clenches his jaw, kicking himself for being so reckless during the real estate deal. Sitting on the stone steps, he realizes he messed up by only stressing about real-world logic and totally forgetting he's inside a video game. Right behind him, a massive skull covered in green fire floats into view, proving that a universe like this would obviously feature spooky mobs. Trying to keep his panic in check, the MC takes a bite of some jerky while eyeing the creepy mansion glowing in the moonlight. Thinking through his options, he concludes that his luck stats are basically useless against ghosts. Scanning his glowing menace, he notices his other system tools are also garbage in this scenario. Since the failure system hasn't dropped any good loot yet, his only play is emotional manipulation, but his fake sidekick is completely MIA. Frustrated, he chews aggressively, remembering that the whole town hates his guts, making it super hard to farm positive vibes. Putting the feelings aside, his hand shakes when he realizes he blew all his cash on this cursed lot and got absolutely nothing in return. Totally sure the shady real estate agency would never hand out a refund, he flips out seeing his master plan hit a brick wall. However, racking his brain, he remembers he was chilling on the lot during the day with zero issues, meaning the ghosts only spawn at night. Hit with a moment of clarity, the young dude flashes a confident smirk, realizing that in a video game, fighting the map design is the worst strategy. Lin figures out that the only building that didn't burn down, and the one trapping the ghosts, acts exactly like a boss dungeon. So, the MC decides he doesn't need to get his hands dirty and starts setting a trap for his fake bro right away. Miles away, the town is lit up with a massive night market, packing the streets with crowds. Merchants are shouting left and right, hustling sweet fruits, pastries, and snacks to the people walking by. Strolling casually, the guy hears a woman's voice calling out, trying to pull customers in for a good time. He stops in front of a totally packed brothel, checking out the wild party going on inside. Knowing his target's habits like the back of his hand, he is 100% sure the gamer would be hunting for a place exactly like this. But before he can walk in, the MC has to dodge a dude who gets yeeted aggressively into the middle of the street. The guy faceplants hard, whining angrily that his cover was blown way too fast. Super embarrassed, he tries to play off being totally broke, while a random ghost laughs at his epic fail of sneaking into the club. The bouncer demands respect, warning him that nobody causes trouble there without bringing the big bucks. Watching the cringe unfold, Lin is amazed by how realistic the game is, letting players experience this level of secondhand embarrassment. Furious, the player flips the bird and vows to come back filthy rich in a few days to rub it right in their faces. Seizing the perfect opening, the fake NPC steps up, warning the guy that talking trash like that is a massive mistake. Flashing a little smirk, he nudges him, saying that empty threat totally lacks the class and aura of a true master. Confused by the random encounter, the guy picks himself up, asking who this weirdo striking poses in front of him is. Never breaking character, the MC introduces himself as just a humble, wise traveler who decided to upgrade the guy's trash talk. Striking a dramatic pose, Lin drops a sick quote about overcoming obstacles, leaving the player absolutely starstruck by his drip. Pumped up, the guy begs for more epic quotes, but the scammer redirects the chat, locking onto his main goal. Smooth talking, he asks how someone destined for greatness could waste time at a brothel when massive glory is waiting for him. Gripping the partner's shoulder tight, Lin tells him to visualize the shiny path reserved strictly for the chosen ones. Thinking he just hit a major quest trigger, the user concludes this kid is the mystical guide in charge of recruiting heroes worldwide. Shook by his own galaxy brain deduction, he's totally convinced he just found a top-tier crucial NPC. Fired up, the guy literally rips his shirt off in the middle of the street, roaring that he was born to be the ultimate hero of this game. Thrown off by the unhinged behavior, the MC wonders why this dude is randomly stripping down. Not caring about looking like a fool, the masked guy flexes his muscles and demands the quest start right now. Overflowing with hype, he swears to clear any task even if he gets wiped trying, giving Lin the green light to push his scheme forward. Quickly, the system generates a screen explaining the tragic lore of a scammed boss who needs backup to purify his new plot of land. Reading the floating text, the gamer almost tears up, thinking he hit the jackpot with an ultra-exclusive quest. Striking another bodybuilder pose, he accepts the gig instantly, assuming the NPC was begging for his elite skills. But right in the middle of his hype, the meathead freezes, noticing a tiny little detail missing from the prompt. Skeptical, he asks what the payout in glory or epic loot is for putting his character on the line for this mission. Looking at the fake extra's bored face, the warrior laughs out loud and swears he was just messing around. Thumping his chest, he promises to help purely out of the goodness of his heart and asks the quest giver to lead the way. Arriving at the rundown property in the dead of night, Lin points at the creepy house, showing him where the action is. Weird green energy shaped like a skull oozes out of the mansion, making the gamer suspect this is way more than just a real estate scam. Busting out the sarcasm, he points out that nobody would just casually buy this nightmare house, while the MC tries to defend his terrible purchase. Looking bored, the buff dude roasts the kid, calling him a business genius for basically buying a graveyard. But, eager to speedrun the secret quest, he cracks his knuckles and tells the so-called NPC to leave the heavy lifting to him. Oozing confidence, the user marches straight for the mansion's dark door, totally ready to farm the mobs inside. Standing at the entrance with a lantern, he peers into the void trying to spot an aggro target. Out of nowhere, a massive glowing eye pierces through the green fog, freezing the intruder solid with pure fear. A second later, a gigantic, totally ripped ghost arm swings out of the shadows, ready to squash the newbie. Watching from a safe distance, Lin's eyes pop, seriously impressed by the spirit monster's raw stats. Without even a chance to block, the gamer gets launched like a rag doll after eating a devastating punch. His body crashes, leaving a crater in the dirt, while the quest giver calmly asks if he's actually capable of handling the job. A female voice rings out telling them to get lost, making Lin celebrate his insane luck of finding a ghost lady right after leaving the club. Right then, the massive ghost dude floats into view and tells the outsider to stop hitting on his wife. Wielding a massive wooden log, the phantom yeets the intruder into the sky again, leaving Lin marveling at the warrior's health bar. Stuck in a ditch and battered, the beefy dude swears he's feeling peachy after getting absolutely stomped. Faking some sympathy, the scammer suggests giving it another shot or finding a different workaround. Sounding disappointed, he warns he'll just go find another carry if the warrior can't handle it, making the player jump to his feet, so he doesn't fail the exclusive quest. In a flash, the kid sprints at top speed right back into the haunted house, thirsty for payback. But his combo doesn't last a second, and he gets violently chucked out again, accompanied by another roar from the furious spirit. From the impact, the warrior face plants and plows the dirt, sliding until he stops right at the fake NPC's boots. Dragging himself across the wrecked lawn, he curses the boss, furious about the game's absolutely broken difficulty scaling. Riding the rage wave, Lin leans in and whispers a rumor about the real reason the monster is guarding the house so hard. Building the hype, he claims the ghost is hoarding an ultra-rare drop right inside its spectral body. Hearing the word treasure, the player's eyes gleam with pure greed, totally forgetting about his busted health bar. Recharged and flexing hard, he jumps up screaming that he's gonna rip the legendary drop straight from the dungeon boss. The bravery is short-lived, and he quickly gets punted out the door yet again, catching a shoe to the face mid-flight for good measure. Sprawled at his buddy's feet looking like absolute garbage, the user throws in the towel, but the scammer complains he made zero progress. With his face beaten beyond recognition, the poor guy can't fathom how anyone could say he didn't give it his 100%. Shaking in pain, he points at his own mangled face, as proof of the nightmare he just went through in there. Using a tactical angle, the MC tells the warrior he messed up by not scanning the area, getting clapped without even getting a good look at the boss. With his gamer pride wounded by the roast, the masked guy chokes back tears and vows he'll study the attack patterns this time. Burning the last of his stamina, he winds up and charges headfirst back at the terrifying mob. Crying buckets of tears mixed with blood, he screams he's going all in to take down the villain. Watching the sucker march to his doom, Lin gives a little smirk, praising how mindlessly obedient players are in this game. Checking his floating screens, he finds it super weird that the system is demanding positive vibes right in the middle of this beatdown. After all, considering the absurd amount of damage the human punching bag just tanked, his mental state should have snapped ages ago. Suddenly, an ear-piercing shriek of absolute terror cuts through the silence, slicing through the dark mansion. Crawling out of the green fog totally wrecked, the warrior reaches out a hand, begging for a revive. Right behind him, a massive shadowy claw erupts from the floor, signaling that their tolerance for home invasions has hit zero. Yanked violently back into the darkness, the player spits blood into the air, while the monster promises to teach him an unforgettable lesson. Covered in damage, the user asks if Lin was sent by the ghost as bait, thinking it's wild that the prophesied hero talks like that. With a chill expression, the fake NPC asks if the guy is missing a glaringly obvious mechanic here. Totally confused, the warrior tries to figure out what lore he skipped over. Right away, Lin explains that the Phantom doesn't actually have the guts to finish him off, hinting the real bottleneck is just the user's total lack of skill. Clenching his fists, the masked guy admits he's done pretending, agreeing his stats and gear are way too low level for this run. Patting his buddy's shoulder, the MC confesses he already knew the guy was an absolute noob with a major debuff against supernatural mobs. Triggered by the shade, the big guy demands to know why his partner is looking at him like that. Stepping back a bit, the scammer praises the youth's guts for taking on the boss fight with zero hesitation, even knowing the crazy level gap. Throwing in some theatrical hand gestures, he declares this honorable mindset guarantees him a shiny, king-tier future. Touched by the speech, the warrior is blown away and asks if his potential is really that overpowered. Right then, the UI flashes, confirming a massive drop of positive emotions, making Lin realize that fluffing players' egos pays out big time. Flexing hard, the dude tells the MC to leave the boss to him, feeling super embarrassed for doubting the guide earlier. Going total try-hard mode, the warrior drops into a serious, intimidating combat stance. Pulling a massive butcher knife straight out of his inventory, he announces that the ghost's refusal to finish him just gave him a 200 IQ idea. Sprinting like a maniac back onto the lot, the big guy roars that he doesn't fear the respawn screen and will sacrifice his own character just to cheese the boss. Diving into the darkness again, the player calls the Phantom a staller and demands to be wiped right on the spot. Moving fast, he swings the cleaver with max damage output straight at the ghostly figure. Outraged by the audacity, the monster grabs the warrior and warns he's about to grant his wish of resetting his account. But the ghost wife begs her husband to stop, reminding him that crossing that line would turn him into a vengeful spirit, trashing all the grinding they've done. Hugging their mom, the ghost kids cry, pleading for the invader to just log off and leave them alone. Watching from the street, Lin pumps his fist, confirming his theory that the souls strictly avoid racking up player kills to keep their sanity. Playing his role, he shouts out advice, telling his buddy to drop the quest if it's bugged, promising to find another carry for the job. Stubborn to the core, the warrior spins the cleaver like a blender, swearing he won't abandon the raid and is ready to wipe today. Tanking a massive combo, the giant ghost tries to block the unhinged barrage of attacks. Hitting his absolute limit, the monster roars that he can't stomach this disrespect for another second. Landing a devastating kick, he launches the intruder square in the chest, blasting him completely off the property. Coughing up blood but grinning from ear to ear, the guy literally celebrates his own wipe with pure joy. Flying through the sky toward the edge of the skybox, the player screams for his dad in his final seconds before his character resets. Wiping the sweat off his forehead, the MC figures the gamer's chaotic behavior is going to be a major headache down the line, all while listening to the ghost family bawling. Strolling up to the door, he asks with heavy sarcasm why the ghost is crying for the dad of the kid who just got sent back to spawn. Pointing a furious finger, the little ghost girl blames Lin for pushing her dad to almost cross the line, ruining her dream of becoming a cultivator. Brushing off the kid's tantrum, the MC spots the invisible magic barrier and guesses the priest hard locked them in there. Trying to cool the vibe, he suggests having a civilized chat, but the brat shoots down the offer instantly. Stubbornly crossing her arms, she swears she'd never leak their lore to some random NPC. But she immediately drops the ball, accidentally blurting out that Monk Lee was the one who saved the family's souls after the fire. The girl explains the spell was cast so they could grind good karma for 10 years until a golden event triggered. Scratching his chin, the scammer analyzes the lore and decides this monk's grand plan sounds sketchy as heck. Calling his daughter over, the ghost dad defends their savior's actions, but admits he's terrified of morphing into a monster if he tanks his karma. Patting his kid's head, the entity mocks Lin, daring him to step inside to see if he can handle respawning a few more times. Asking everyone to chill, the young guy points out that the monster still has a clear head, proving the spiritual grind is actually working. Totally lost on what the guest wants, the giant ghost tells him to cut to the chase. Flashing the property deed, Lin warns that if they want to avoid more chaos, they gotta pack their ghostly bags and evict themselves right now. Turning up the heat, he reminds them of the absolute mess that Crazy Try Hard caused just a minute ago. Gritting his teeth, the spirit doubts there's another player dumb enough to raid the house, swearing he won't abandon his spawn point. Crossing his arms, the MC shoots back that dead folks belong in the graveyard, and threatens to hire another priest to banish them for good. Spooked by the threat, the ghost stutters, asking what the new server admin plans to do with them. The kid explains that the first monk might have been cool, but leaving prime real estate locked up for 10 years screams hidden agenda. Making some grand hand gestures, Lin declares he's not taking a loss here, but he'll throw the family a bone and let them chill there in peace. Eyes sparkling with hope, the ghost family eagerly asks what this epic golden opportunity is. On the inside, the scammer is dying of laughter at how gullible the mobs are, mind blown by how easily they swallow fake lore. Taking charge, he sets the rule list the restaurant runs during the day, and the night shift is theirs, promising zero aggro if they keep things clean. Anxious, the dad asks if having a haunted lobby won't scare off the living customers. Faking sympathy, the MC swears that co-op with humans is the only strategy to stop them from turning into mindless boss mobs. The kid spins a wild theory, claiming that leeching off living energy will actually buff the ghost kid and help her level up. Pulling in for a group hug, the ghosts buy the scam 100%, convinced that rooming with humans is their new main quest. Flashing a relieved smile, the little girl praises the noob for not being toxic, and Lin nods along without an ounce of shame. Right then, the UI chimes, validating a massive drop of good energy from the Phantom family, leaving the guy amazed his silver tongue works even on code. Milking the moment, he swears human vibes could even trigger a direct respawn buff, cementing the absolute success of his scheme. Completely bamboozled, the family members drop to their knees, bowing with max gratitude. Walking away on cloud 9, the scammer overhears the spirit agreeing that rich folks are toxic, deciding the new boss's patch notes are way better. Winking confidently, the MC promises that following his terms of service is the ultimate cheat code for everyone's success. Thinking it over, he concludes that since these spirits are so easy to bait, that mysterious priest is honestly a zero-threat NPC. Searching the dark yard for something, the manager's weird behavior makes the giant ghost raise an eyebrow. Finding the situation funny, the monster assumes the kid is looting the annoying invader's dropped gear. But looking closer at the crater, the entity jumps in shock seeing that the corpse just completely despawned. Gathered around the ditch, the family is totally shook by the sudden vanishing act of a dude who just got clapped into oblivion. The dad theorizes he didn't hit him hard enough and the guy just rage quit and ran, which explains why his soul didn't turn corrupt. Scooping up dropped cash, Lin confirms the wipe, knowing gamers would never abandon their hard-earned loot if they were still alive. Handing over the dropped items, the ghost wife agrees the loot drop proves the attacker definitely reset. Freaking out, the big guy concludes the heroes have God mode, responds and panics, picturing the endless revenge runs from the unkillable sweat. Waving goodbye to the family, Lin tells them to log off and rest, promising to explain the lore of this madness later. Trying to nerf their panic, he assures them the noob dropped bad loot, and it'll take him forever to grind back up to bother them again. Analyzing the server rules, the MC celebrates that newbies prefer dodging death, giving him the perfect setup to farm them for drops later. Miles away from the mansion, back at the spawn point, the player is throwing a massive tantrum, raging at the trash mechanic that wipes your inventory when you reset. Slumped against the wall, the guy cries in despair over his lost gear, terrified he'll fail the quest if he talks to the NPC empty-handed. Getting a debuff for hunger, the warrior completely loses his mind over the game's brutal survival mechanics, complaining he might literally starve to death right after bagging a quest. Just then, something down the street catches his eye. Spotting some beggars farming coins, a huge light bulb goes off. Realizing he can refill his stamina bar by begging instead of buying food. Hyped about the exploit, the gamer squats by a wall, ready to roleplay to farm some easy gold. But he bails on the idea in pure panic, terrified the VIP NPC might catch him doing something so cringe, totally ruining his alpha hero vibe and failing the mission. Focused on not throwing his dignity in the trash for nothing, he decides to log out for a bit, planning to scour the subreddits for other ways to get food without looking like a total scrub. The second he vanishes in a flash of light, the camera pans to a nearby street, where the hoodie girl and the masked guy are doing exactly that. Cosplaying as beggars, hiding in the shadows, the duo scopes out the NPC traffic like hawks. Holding out a little bowl, the girl begs for mercy from anyone walking by. Making up a tragic backstory, the masked guy claims their spawn zone got wiped by a flood, crying that they're completely broke and haven't replenished their hunger bars in days. The acting totally works, and a random dude tosses some coins into the bowl, making the young guy spam the thank you emote. Riding the charity wave, the girl also drops some buffs, wishing blessings and high defense stats for the Donner's life. Super uncomfortable with the whole vibe, she asks if his endgame is really just maining the beggar class, and he fires back asking what else they're supposed to do. The masked guy points out they have massive bounties in the city, arguing that begging, even if it's lame, is the only survival strategy while they camp for the scammer. Trying to boost his teammates' morale, he says sandbox games require out of the box strats, and while she slowly collects the loot, he says he's gonna check the web. Dripping with confidence, the masked guy swears the beef with the fake relative is now personal, promising he's gonna camp that scammer's spawn, no matter what. With his head in the game, the outsider puts 100% of his stats into his new survival grind. Zero shame detected, he throws himself on the pavement and goes back to screaming for donations right on Main Street. Flexing his Oscar-worthy roleplay, the kid spins a fake lore about his parents' tragic wipe and being abandoned as a noob, totally pulling on the NPC's heartstrings. The locals gather around, super moved by the fake sob story, and a literal coin shower starts filling the liar's bowl. Deeply hit right in the feels, the pedestrians get totally bummed out by the kid's hardcore difficulty life. In a matter of minutes, the rusty bowl is maxed out to the brim with server donations. Salty and jealous, the bunny girl tells him to drop the act and stop stealing her traffic, complaining she had a solid farming route before he went totally overboard. Brushing off the hate, he asks why his teammate logged back in so fast, and she hypes up an epic guide a veteran player just dropped online. Taking a dramatic bow after scooping more cash, the player calls out the guide, guessing it's just another troll post designed to grief newbies. Pointing a finger at the sky, the girl explains that the walkthrough shows exactly how to unlock a class specialization in this server. Meanwhile, a cutscene shows the beefy warrior securing a gig at the blacksmith shop, where the owner hyped up his stats and hired him on the spot. Crunching the data, the guy realizes real-life skills actually translate to the game mechanics, noticing that the NPCs live exactly like real reincarnated players. The girl disagrees, saying the real meta is something else, and points out that the warrior officially unlocked the blacksmith class in the UI. Chilling on the ground, the girl shares the veteran's pro tip. Having a high stealth stat to blend in with NPCs is way better than grinding mobs in the wild. The guy chews on the idea of going undercover among the NPCs and tries to find a bug to exploit this mechanic. Leaning against the wall like it's nothing, the outsider claims that maining a beggar fits this strategy perfectly, leaving his partner totally lost by his sudden mood swing. Pointing at thin air, he tells his friend to check the system logs, pulling up a massive screen loaded with cash and experience points gained just from panhandling. Reading the UI, the hoodie girl's eyes practically pop out of her skull, thinking the amount of gold her partner farmed is absolutely broken. Miles away, the morning sun lights up a cozy room, where Lin is still catching some solid sleep. Waking up with a jump scare, the kid thinks he slept past his alarm, but quickly realizes the noise was a massive spam of notifications from his own UI. Checking the screens, he sees the quest to help his fake bro unlock a class got completely cleared, dropping a massive buff to his luck stats. Utterly stun-locked, the scammer stares at the glowing panel, trying to process how insanely broken this update is. Blowing a fuse, he screams, demanding to know what kind of late night exploit the masked guy pulled, thinking it's completely unhinged that the engine counts begging as a legit class. Throwing a massive tantrum on the bed, the MC tosses his pillow across the room, disgusted by the new patch note, and finds it awful that he has to encourage the guy to be homeless permanently. While fixing his bedhead, he instantly vetoes the idea, knowing beggars have terrible gold multipliers, and fears his partner's trash build will totally brick his own master plan. Yanking his comm so hard it almost snaps, the kid decides to pull a drastic aggro move, swearing to force his dumb teammate to wipe his account and reroll from scratch. Marching out of the house with purpose, the MC locks in his waypoint, deciding he's hunting down his big bro to debug this absolute mess. The streets are already packed with shops open under the blazing sun. Strolling casually, Lin decides his top priority is grabbing some breakfast, wanting to use the time to gather intel on how the local food joints operate. Stepping into a crowded tavern, he gets a super hyped greeting from a bubbly waiter, who shouts a totally warm good morning. Wiping down the table in a frame, the NPC guarantees the player made a top-tier choice, flexing that their food is the absolute best in the zone. Sitting down like a boss, Lin praises the server's load time and says the guy deserves a tip, leaving the waiter totally shocked and hyped about the easy drop. Dropping some coins on the table, the kid says the loot is a bonus for the grind, and the worker flashes a massive smile, cheering the rich player's epic generosity. On the down low, the MC watches the UI confirm he siphoned the waiter's good vibes, proving his exploit works perfectly. With a sly look, Lin figures out that manipulating NPC pathing and emotions is way easier than he originally thought. Crossing his arms, he guesses that pay to win solves almost everything in this server, and cutting off the guy's spam of thank yes assures him he earned the drop. Keeping the hustle going, the scammer roleplays as a veteran traveler who's never seen such high-tier dedication, and the over-the-top fluff makes the poor NPC literally cry tears of joy. With zero remorse, Lin hypes up the waiter's honest grind and fast ping, claiming with absolute certainty that he'll own his own tavern one day. Sealing the cinematic moment, the kid points a finger and tells the worker to believe in his own stats, filling the poor dude's hope bar to the max. Spooked, another player starts spamming the chat for drinks, and the waiter's vibe flips instantly, rushing over annoyed to handle the troll, while apologizing for cutting the cutscene short. Finding the AI behavior absolutely hilarious, Lin tells his new buddy to get back to his route without rushing, and the worker, touched by the VIP's chill attitude, promises absolute loyalty forever. Smug about his own fake lore, the MC celebrates the massive chunk of energy he farmed from a single NPC, realizing this waiter is basically an infinite resource node. After an hour of god-tier food, Lin's table is stacked with empty plates. Gearing up to head out, he straightens his fit, feeling super proud of his leveling, because besides the system buffs, chatting with the waiter dropped crucial hints about his fake brother. Patrolling down a shady alley, Lin equips a heavy machete, hunting for his older brother, and accidentally scares an old beggar chilling on the ground, who asks what the kid wants. Out of nowhere, the kid does a quick time event and jams the blade into the wall, inches from the old man's face, who tries to act like a tank, warning he's immune to aggro. Totally unbothered by the threat level, the beggar starts casually picking his nose, making it crystal clear he has zero clue where the guy the kid is hunting is. Wagging his finger no, the old-timer swears on his life that the masked user never spawned in that alley, period. Annoyed his interrogation failed, the MC yanks his weapon back, ripping the blade out of the busted bricks. Switching up his strategy, Lin drops a fat stack of shiny coins into the old man's bowl, and the beggar's vibe shifts instantly, flashing a greedy grin at the pay to win drop. Staring at the easy gold, the scammer sighs heavily and swaps his dialogue options to squeeze any useful lore out of the boomer. Acting like a guild master, the MC cuts the fluff, demanding coordinates for the hideout and the username of the server's ultimate beggar kingpin. Thrilled with the loot, the old man dumps the lore, swearing there are no secret guilds or organized beggar factions in this region. Skeptical of the dialogue box, the kid narrows his eyes in silence, wondering if the guild is a myth or if this useless NPC just lacks clearance for the secret data. Ignoring the VIP's suspicion, the boomer repeats that the street meta is a free for all, and nobody answers to a server admin. Massaging his chin, Lin tries to reverse engineer the game logic, totally baffled why his partner picked such a garbage class, if there isn't even a faction to carry him. Drowning a coin right in the old man's face, he swaps tactics and asks who the guardian of the streets is, and the beggar, mesmerized by the shiny loot, decides to spill the tea. Flexing his ego, the old man points at the skybox and drops a secret lore bomb, warning that panhandling here requires a permit from a totally ruthless boss. Hearing this hidden lore, the MC's eyes go wide, mind blown by his partner's insane luck, starting to think the masked guy accidentally triggered a secret quest. Hearing the prompt, the street boomer throws his hands up and dramatically asks who this legendary boss is, and the kid parries the question, demanding the username immediately. Puffing out his chest, the old man claims that he himself is the big, brain, overpowered, and merciful admin who lets them camp there. In a split second, the MC thinks to himself if these massive stat claims aren't just the beggar's exaggerated flavor text. Giving a thumbs up emote, the homeless NPC confirms the lore is canon and swears he isn't dropping fake info. Taking slow steps, Lin says it's super suspicious to see people spamming so many questions and asks if the old man is actually a rogue spy class. Hearing the accusation, he bows slightly and swears he's completely innocent, claiming zero ties to the criminal underworld. The boomer's eyes bug out, completely stunned, locked by the totally random ban threat he just heard. Coughing to play it cool, the young dude promises he doesn't want to trigger any aggro, making up an excuse that he's got other quests to clear. Cooling down, the beggar drops a massive sigh of relief and admits he almost had a critical system failure hearing that. Checking the blue UI, Lin notices the guy's stress drop generated charisma and unlocked the negative emotion skill tree. Inside his head, the kid sees two seed items hovering and decides the choice of which one to buff is a no-brainer. With the strategy locked in, he flashes a toxic smirk full of totally sketchy intentions. Grabbing the green orb, the scammer lets out a laugh, claiming that a goody two-shoes like him obviously wants to farm the positive vibes. But the system prompt actually congratulates him for picking the evil skill tree, rendering a dark little plant popping out of the dirt. Staring at the green sphere, the young guy is totally confused by the error message, saying he doesn't meet the requirements for that item. Shook to the core, he wonders how he fingered the wrong choice, realizing he's literally hard-coded to never be a good guy. Throwing a raging fit, the kid stumps the ground hard, completely convinced the AI is trolling him. Grabbing his head in pure despair, Lin complains the dev engine is torturing him, basically forcing him to be the final boss of this lore. Rebooting his attitude, he strikes an overpowered boss pose, making the old man bow down and buy into his massive level difference. Watching the boomer clasp his hands in respect, the MC realizes having max charisma is totally broken for extracting secret intel from NPCs. Being super helpful, the old man offers to page the South Zone admin to sort out the bug. Throwing a hand up to decline, the young dude says skip it and drops a thanks, pretending to buy the old man's lore. The beggar flashes a happy smile for winning his trust, while the scammer wonders if his mafia boss roleplay actually passes the stat check. Pointing at the wanted posters on the wall, Lin asks about the trolls who tried to raid the prison, and the old man confirms he saw the bounty patches. Looking down, the MC finally connects the dots that his fake bro picked the beggar class purely out of desperation to drop a grow. Decoding the server rules, he realizes logging out in the dungeon is disabled, making capturing his target essentially an auto-win. Dropping some extra tip money, the scammer tells the old man to ping the so-called admin that the wanted players are using beggar skins in the sector. Staring at the solid gold coin, the boomer sweats bullets, thinking it's insanely toxic to grief players who already have such a low-tier build. Throwing morals out the window, Lin demands he leak the intel immediately to speedrun the arrest, and the guy agrees to snitch on the duo in exchange for a power boost. Spinning around to bounce, the young guy waves by, using the excuse that he has high-level raids to run and can't reveal his actual gamer tag. Parked right in front of the wanted poster, Lin uses telepathy to tell his fake teammate that he absolutely hates seeing guildmates ruin each other's runs. Ripping the paper off the brick, he mutters that the partner's only play is to dodge this trap or tank the jail time without wiping his save file. Crushing the paper with a tight grip, the MC promises that only by surviving this skill check will he ever call him a legit duo. With a dead, serious face, he threatens that if the guy fumbles, he'll have to jump into the cutscene and hand out a beatdown himself. Without a single ounce of pity, the kid tosses the buddy's headshot into the dirt and stumps right on it before walking away. Kneeling next to his dark plant, he complains that the algorithm totally bricked his endgame, railroading him into a pure villain playthrough. Watching the players pass by, he sighs heavily, exhausted by the completely broken mechanics the AI generated. Trekking a few blocks, the MC finally hits the waypoint for the carpentry shop hired to craft the gear for his new joint. Flashing a villainous smirk, he realizes that to survive the meta, he's gonna have to grief other people and buff his stats, so he doesn't get one shot. Checking out the wonky stools by the door, the kid cooks up a theory that literally anyone could see the aesthetic appeal in those glitchy assets. But, salty about the game's terrible ping, he wonders if he'll have to manually deliver the ugly furniture himself. Nearby, a carpenter whispers to his coworker about the unhinged client who ordered tables with holes. Plotting a heist to loot the warehouse. Eavesdropping from a distance, Lin figures out the lag in delivery, realizing the lazy NPCs were just AFK farming. Sneaking up on the duo, the kid drops his voice an octave and asks if that's how they flex their gamer work ethic. Jumping out of their skins, the workers get spooked as the MC strikes a terrifying pose and demands they summon the guild master right now. Triggered by the disrespect, the NPCs yell, asking who this low-level scrub thinks he is, and if he wants a one-way ticket to the respawn screen. Totally unfazed, Lin drops a sarcastic smirk and announces he's literally the unhinged client they were just trash-talking. Both carpenters' eyes pop wide open, completely frozen in lag as they realize the VIP overheard their entire heist strategy. Swapping the scene to the shop's main lobby, a deep, cheerful voice tells the noble client to take a seat and chill. Kicking back comfortably, the kid is waited on by the owner, who immediately flames his NPCs for their absolute lack of manners. Pointing a firm finger at the boss, the MC skips the dialogue tree and demands to know if the quest will be completed, or if he's getting a full gold refund. Passing on a customer service smile to drop the tension, the bearded boss tries to do damage control, claiming the lag wasn't intentional. Staring him down, Lin's patience hits zero, and he asks if the big guy is just gonna keep spamming garbage excuses. Out of nowhere, the master carpenter drops to his knees, literally cracking the wooden floorboards, which makes his helpers scream in pure panic. Spooked by the massive sound effect, the kid jumps in his chair, totally lost on why the boss triggered such a dramatic cutscene. Rubbing his hands together begging, the manager uses the window to explain that custom skins require way more rendering time. Rolling high on persuasion, the man begs for a deadline extension, promising to drop all the loot at once the second the cast finishes. Losing his absolute mind, Lin jumps up in a rage and yells that he caught the NPCs scheming to raid his storage. Sweating buckets, the bearded dude waves his hands frantically, swearing on his life they'd never grief a VIP client like that. Even with the super toxic vibe inside the shop, the outside world is still totally chill, bathed in afternoon sunlight. Resting his face on his hand, Lin drops a little smirk and mentions that the ghost mob family already green lit the move. Hearing that lore drop, the master and his peon's eyes bug out, getting swallowed by an insane, absolute wave of terror. Leaning in close, the imposter feeds off their fear debuff and claims this makes the runway smoother, while the bearded guy begs him to mute his mic. Stone cold, Lin points to everyone in the room, assigning them the names of the ghost family, calling the boss the husband, and the peons the wife and kid. Drenched in sweat, the carpenter tries to reroute the dialogue, stammering that nobody here goes by those user IDs. Cloaked in an overpowered, creepy aura, the kid warns he isn't the only one itching to see the server launch. With his eyes glowing in a totally sinister way, he drops a threat that when night falls, the lot will spawn a deb collector with way higher scare stats. In full-blown panic mode, the giant man collapses, hugging the kid's leg and bawling his eyes out, begging for mercy. Patting the boss's head a few times, Lin tells him to stop trawling and demands every single piece of furniture be dropped off first thing in the morning. Shaking like a leaf, the carpenter flashes a thumbs up and swears he won't miss the timer. Waving by over his shoulder, the MC warns the deal is locked, as long as there are 0 lag spikes this time. Knowing the absolute nightmare he just downloaded into their brains, he lets out a toxic laugh, absolutely loving his villain arc. Walking away looking like a complete menace, the kid wonders internally if this whole roleplay strategy will actually drop the loot he needs. From out on the street, a high-pitched scream of raw terror echoes from the shop, securing the MC a massive drop of fear points. Sprawled on the floor drooling from panic, the boss totally blacks out, while the peons decide they will never, ever try to scam a player with connections to the underworld. Strolling down the block, Lin figures he'll have to spam fear debuffs on all his vendors one by one to make sure they actually complete their quests. But he quickly shifts gears, deciding that pure blackmail is actually a top-tier motivation buff. Parked in front of the blacksmith's forge, the kid reads the sign of the next waypoint he needs to audit. Inside, the relentless sound of a sledgehammer smashing hot iron dominates the gritty room. The newbie, who is an actual player, notices the master looking super stressed and has 0 clue why his face is screaming pure panic. At that moment, Lin casually walks up to the massive forge boss to collect his totally busted custom order. Scoping it out from a distance, the gamer finds it super weird seeing this tank of a dude shivering in such a high temperature zone. Shaking the blacksmith's hands, Lin drops a subtle threat, asking if he'd rather a ghost spawn to collect the items in person. Hit with an unspeakable terror debuff, the blacksmith throws his hands up and shakes his head, instantly rejecting the idea. Hyped about the handshake deal, Lin heads out just as the UI pings a double experience drop for negative energy. Inside his head, he cheers about how incredibly broken ghosts are for terrifying NPCs and farming massive points. On his way out, the MC spots a gamer camping in stealth mode and decides to keep his distance to dodge any aggro. Crouched behind a pillar, the kid keeps eavesdropping on the cutscene without breaking his stealth. Walking the other way, the scammer realizes how tough it is to string gamers along without any actual quests in his inventory. Back on the grind, the apprentice asks the boss what the heck that low-level kid was doing in their zone. Hammering away, the blacksmith also shows major curiosity about the absolute brain rot of that unhinged client. Slamming the hammer down on the anvil, the guy declares the kid is 100% a complete psycho. Trembling with rage, he vents that the youth's behavior totally breaks the lore, bringing up the scorched earth zone. The rumor mill says it's pure madness for the kid to try setting up shop right on top of a cursed map. Filled with dread, the worker confesses that even the dead mob family agreed to craft the cursed items. The sound of the hammer striking metal rings out again, showering the entire room in sparks. Crying about his bad luck, the master complains about blowing his own gold to craft pots with 0 stats. Hearing the whining, the noob drops a strategy to just issue a refund if the build turns out garbage. Eyes bulging, the bearded boss stares at his helper and asks if he seriously thinks the issue is just them slacking off. Screaming at the top of his lungs, the master spills that his actual nightmare is getting a visit from that hideous ghost mob at his own spawn point. Mind blown by the lore drop, the player's jaw drops as he processes the massive fear debuff the boss has for phantoms. Curious, the kid asks if the client's AI is glitched, and the master confirms the boy's absolute madness. Analyzing the data, the newbie applies pure gamer logic to try and crack this massive pile of mysteries. Hyped up, the giant concludes he just stumbled onto an ultra-rare NPC and vows to trigger his exclusive questline. Taking a step forward, the user eagerly volunteers to run the delivery quest to the drop point himself. Spinning a quick lie, the noob swears the party is too spooked, taking the aggro onto himself with total main character energy. The bearded boss hugs his helper with insane force, hyping him up as a generous, top-tier prodigy, nearly suffocating the kid. Dripping with gratitude, the beefy dude agrees to ship the goods the second the server resets at dawn. But in reality, the gamer books it with his weapon equipped straight for the haunted house, thirsty for a revenge run. Nearing the cursed zone, he admits his first run was a total throw and decides to scan the boss's hitboxes in broad daylight. Overflowing with confidence, the warrior declares that the brainless ghost only leveled physical strength, making him the ultimate target practice for his blade. With tears in his eyes, he complains about having to use an internet exploit just to respawn, and he is absolutely itching to get his loadout back. Breaching the crumbling house, he finds the map totally wiped clean, with zero signs of his drop gear. Swallowed by panic, the invader questions if the engine lets NPCs loot dead players, or if another user already swooped his drops. Hand over his mouth, he's absolutely crushed thinking the legendary quest giver totally ditched him overnight. Clinging to copium, the big guy shakes his head, guessing the boss went away from keyboard and the mobs are just on standby mode. While he does a victory dance over the chance to solo the objective, the ghost family is actually monitoring the intruder from the shadows. The monster totally agrees with Lin's take on the heroes, feeling super relieved by the zero, aggro piece during the daytime cycle. Seeing the swordsman randomly dip, the dad pings the family that the uninvited guest is finally logging off. Outside the safe zone, the kid raises his sword, absolutely spiked on adrenaline, ready to grind mobs and boost his skill tree. Shocked by the insane stamina, the ghosts can't even begin to process the absolute brain rot of that unhinged kid. The swordsman takes off like a rocket across the field, totally desperate to farm crazy experience points and guarantee his boss clear. Kicking up a massive dust cloud, the warrior zooms right past the beggar duo leaning against the wall. The masked guy cooks up a theory that the speedster is definitely a player, guessing he triggered a timed event while sprinting. Not missing a beat, the hoodie girl flames her partner, saying his fake bro brings literally nothing but lag and grief. Chewing casually, the guy promises that worst-case scenario, they just surrender to the city admin to wipe their aggro meters. He calculates that clearing their names is doable, preferring to reroll the account from zero, rather than away from keyboard in a jail cell. Brainstorming escape routes, the girl wonders if hitting the hard reset on their playthrough wouldn't be the ultimate big brain play. Suddenly, the bunny girl's eyes dilate to the max, locked onto a shadow rendering down the street. Going into full panic mode, she points frantically, warning her duo that the scammer fake brother just loaded into the zone. Before the masked guy can even process the ping, a street boomer raises a wooden plank right behind his hitbox. The player tries to decipher his friend's scream, squinting hard to see the scammer approaching. Out of nowhere, the critical hit lands straight on the back of the kid's neck with massive damage, leaving him stunned, locked instantly. A totally aggro mob of beggars pins the two fugitives in the alley, ready to permanently ban the liars. Watching the whole raid from the VIP seats, Lin cracks a massive winner's smile, seeing the fake beggars getting clapped. Hog-tied like a loot drop, the masked guy rolls on the pavement, screaming and begging his little bro to pop a heel. Dragging the prisoners, the boomers mock the kid's absolute audacity to keep spamming fake lore. Standing completely still with his arms crossed, the scammer just watches the cringe compilation unfold without ever breaking his NPC stance. The homeless guy swears he's hauling the duo straight to the city mods, warning that a cosmetic skin won't cancel the bounty drop. With absolutely zero mercy, the furious mob drags the invaders, scraping their hitboxes across the cobblestone. Dripping with sarcasm, Lin taunts his old partner, pointing out that his ban hammer is basically a guaranteed event now. He drops the hard truth that trying to cheese the system with fake skins just multiplied their wanted level with the guards. Flashing a totally toxic smirk, the kid asks if his loyal sidekick has realized his account is completely bricked. Throwing an Oscar-worthy cutscene, the MC turns his head away, faking a massive crying emote over losing his bro. Swapping expressions in a single frame, the kid exaggerates wildly, swearing his heart is shattered into pieces. Far out of the scammer's rendered distance, the beggar convoy marches to the police station to cash in the gold. Strolling down the chill sidewalks, Lin thinks it's insanely impressive how the devs coded organized beggar factions. But the server's lag in nerfing trolls makes the kid suspicious, and he decides to lock onto his main questline instead. Suddenly, a massive server-wide event grabs his attention, revealing a huge swarm of players crowding the main plaza. Fueled by curiosity over the random flash mob, the MC decides to walk over and inspect what the raid group is actually after. The massive crowd of players is squished together, spamming voice lines in front of an incredibly aesthetic martial arts dojo in the square. Analyzing the render, Lin figures the raid group is desperate to unlock the building, totally explaining the bottleneck. The MC pieces together that melee combat is the highest tier bait for these gamers, perfectly explaining why the zone has so much traffic. Right then, he notices the entry requirements got patched in, naturally organizing a massive queue of users trying to enroll. Searching his databanks, the kid remembers the map has 3 main training hubs that accept players from any faction. This first hub is run by the Jung clan, specializing in a combo, heavy style since 2 elemental buffs. This same guild also runs an underworld mafia and monopolizes the fast travel services in the region. Meanwhile, the second training zone is owned by the Mo family, heavily focused on maxing out sword mastery trees. A lot of the time, the damage dealers carrying out of this academy get hired to run escort missions for the server's whales. Finally, there's the Wu clan's dojo, legendary for teaching a fatal ultimate known as the Thousand Blade Saber. On top of running guard duty, these fighters have massive reputation with the city's military faction. With all these lore drops loaded, Lin realizes these factions literally exist just to hand out the starter quests for newbies. Wanting to secure the early game advantage, he locks in on finding the exact requirements a user needs to bypass the paywall. The mystery clears up when a green-haired outsider drops a laugh, assuring his buddy that the bypass is literally just paying the entry fee. Absolutely raging, his teammate yells, demanding to know how they're supposed to farm gold on a test server that blocks real-world microtransactions. Eavesdrop in the chat. One player complains the engine is bugged for not making it free to play, while her friend thinks the hard mode is actually fun. Trying to defuse the aggro, another adventurer raises his hands and tells the duo to stop flaming each other in the public chat. The kid warns he's got a high-risk exploit to farm massive gold, basically just needing the party to trust him for the glitch to work. Without a second of hesitation, the squad grabs the kid's shirt, proving that low-level accounts have zero fear of getting banned on sketchy bets. Pointing a finger firmly, they all agree that, worst-case scenario, the fix is just to wipe their data and start a new game plus from zero. Watching the chaotic lobby from afar, the MC realizes that not fearing the respawn screen isn't even the worst debuff these guys have. Facepalming hard, he feels deeply sorry that there are actual users completely willing to nuke their entire accounts over the tiniest glitch.